Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Souders, Slunger Cat Outdoors, back with you again this afternoon. It is finally, we are live for another Tackle Talk Tuesday. I know it has been a while, a few weeks. We have been extremely busy doing a lot of different things work, family life, just being an adult. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. It is the first part of November, and tonight we're going to be talking about something that a lot of people ask me about, and I'm sorry for the raspy voice. I've got a slight cold, so bear with me and stick with me. Let's plug this in real quick so it doesn't go dead. All right, so as always, first things first, make sure that you guys can hear me and you guys can see me well. Give me that thumbs up. Let me know what you guys can hear and what you guys can see. If this is your first time joining the channel, if this is your first time checking us out, I want to say thank you guys for checking us out. It's a pleasure for me to have you guys come and check us out, and ask questions and get information. So as you guys can see back here, I was running a little bit late. I was getting some stuff ready. Got some boxes ready. We're going to do some giveaways tonight, so make sure you stick around. Going to do them periodically throughout the whole thing tonight, but hopefully we can, get some good information flowing. And yeah, so as always, make sure if you guys have any questions, do the @ChrisSouders in the comments, and we will see if we can get things every question answered tonight. I'm going to see if I can pull up the chat on my computer. So let's talk about this for a little bit. Had a question a while back, actually on one of the last tackle talks we done about cold front conditions, what it means and how it affects fish, pressure systems, barometric pressures, things like that. And so that's kind of where we're going to start at tonight. What we're going to be talking about tonight is, when we pull a fish up and it's got a real muddy belly, or it's got a lot of mud on it, what does that mean? How do we target that? How do we, approach that? Because there's, as we learn to fish and as our skills develop, we need to learn how to recognize those things and what they mean to help us better ourselves in being able to get on a certain pattern to put more and bigger fish in the boat. Okay, so what causes fish to bury in the mud? It can be a multitude of different things, and I'm by no means am I like the scientific guru of this. This is strictly what I have learned over the years, and how I approach that situation to help myself, do better at catching more fish. So, a couple different things will force those fish down in the mud. First and foremost is cold fronts. Cold fronts will definitely force those fish into the mud. Blue cats especially. With flatheads, you will see it, but it won't be as dominant, and you can still kind of catch flatheads a little bit easier in these situations. And we'll talk about that as we move forward through this topic tonight. So, cold front situations is something that we all struggle with. It seems like that as soon as we go someplace, we've been wanting to fish for a week, all of a sudden we get there, the weather was perfect, people were catching fish. We get there, and all of a sudden, boom, big old cold front comes in, north winds, and with north winds or winds out of the north comes, these drastic cold temperatures that we're getting right now. And, being able to predict what those fish are going to do will get you in the areas that they're going to be at quicker. Okay, so these drastic cold temperatures force these fish down into the mud and into the structure and heavy cover for a couple reasons. It's not necessary. I mean, it is because that area might be warmer, might be more comfortable, but normally with a cold snap comes a dramatic change in pressure, whether it be high or low pressure. It For some reason it always seems to affect those fish. You know, we look at it as the cold snap forced those fish into the into the mud or into the cover and stuff, but it's, in my opinion, more of the barometric pressure that comes along with that that will force those fish into that cover or structure. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's high or low. It seems like with a cold snap and the pressure change with it seems to affect those fish more than than just normal. But it doesn't seem to really matter whether it's a high or low pressure change. If it is a big pressure change, it always seems to really affect those fish. Blue cats in general, for me, is something I struggle with, that are really affected by that pressure change. Once again, flatheads, it might just be where I fish for those more, but I always seem to think that a flathead is not affected as much as a blue cat because it is already living in that cover and structure, where a blue cat might be just kind of meandering out onto a flat, on ledges, things of that nature. Okay, so let's pull this up. Right off the bat, since we kind of got that part of it covered, let's do a giveaway. First up for grab, let's see what's in here. Alright. Got some speakies, some Yachi hooks, some Hood Wrap Easy Slides, some decals, a shipping label. I might need that. Alright, so that's the first one up for grabs. Let's do this real quick. I'm gonna pin because I know how you guys are. You guys like to start rambling stuff off before I can get started. Alright. See, I already see it. Alright, I got a number written down between 1 and 10. Hit it. First one to get it wins it. Man, there's some people all over that 7. And again, while you guys are trying to figure out what number I wrote down, it's between 1 and 10. Dan Stedman. All right, buddy. Dan, make sure you get me your address, and I will get this shipped out to you ASAP, buddy. All right. So now the next part of this is, and if you are just now joining, we're talking about, why we catch fish, or when we catch fish covered in mud, what it's caused from, what it can be caused from, I guess, and kind of some tips and tricks on how to approach those and how to approach those situations. Thanks, Harley. So we talked about cold front conditions, how it can sink those into the mud, and we'll talk about another instance where those fish get sucked into the mud here in just a second. But now I want to talk about how we're going to approach these fish that are buried into the mud. Okay, a couple different ways, and a lot of it is going to depend on where and how you're fishing. Okay, so let's talk about rivers to start with. Um, when we're talking about rivers, we got a cold front situation come in. How are we going to approach it? Me personally, if we have current, I'm going to go directly to that cover and structure that they are going to be drawn to. If it is, whether it be a lock and dam, concrete, rock, power, like power plants, or just mud flats that they suck down into. Okay, so let's kind of walk through that a little bit and break that down. So I know there's going to be some questions on a couple of things that I said and how they affect fish during pressure systems or during cold front conditions. Okay, so we're in a river situation, and we're going to fish for blue cats. Depending on the temperature depending on the temperature and current will depend on the tactic that you will use that particular day. For instance, if it's colder water, let's say 50 degrees or below, we're fishing for blue cats. We're going to anchor fish. Okay, if it's a cold front condition, we're going to sit on them a little bit longer. Muskrat Adventures ask, is it better to fish before or after a front? In my opinion, from what I've learned over the years, it's always best to fish ahead of the front. Ahead of the front or 3 days after the first solid affected day of the front. Okay, if that makes sense. So, we're in a river situation, 50 degrees or less. How I'm going to approach that is, I'm going to fish an area that is going to be on a seam line. Okay, we're fishing for blue cats again. Where I'm going to fish in that structure and cover, and I'm going to set on those fish a little bit longer. I may set on those fish as much as an hour. Okay, depending on how the bite is going. Most of you always hear me preach about 30 minutes and go on and go from there. But in cold front condition times where we know those fish are going to be very slow, very sluggish, I'm going to sit on them just a little bit longer. And something else I'm going to do is downsize my baits. For everybody that wins tonight, if you get a pack of the Diachi hooks in here, there's these are kind of like starter hooks, but that is a 5 and a 3, I believe. So the bigger one is a 5. Now, on some of the videos that you guys have seen me do, I use 5/0 hooks, and in these situations, I will actually use a 5/0 hook. People will argue that hook is not really strong enough or big enough to catch big fish. And I've caught good fish on it. Craig, that's a good question. He asked, what about if the pressure is stable for 2 or 3 days after the front? That is good. When that pressure stabilizes out and it's kind of, and you'll notice that with the cold front condition. Cold front snap comes in, pressure system comes in, everything gets affected, and then normally about 3 days after that, things are kind of stabilized out and the fishing picks up for a couple different reasons. Stable conditions definitely make them more comfortable, and it's gonna, they're gonna feel more active, come out, feed more. Okay, and that's the situations that we want to be in. The next thing I want to talk about, and it's a good question on here for Troll 522. He asked about leader length, and with this, okay, so whether you use a float or not, something I always like to do is shorten things up. And this is a lot different if you're fishing lakes, and we'll get to that in a minute. But even if I'm in a river situation, I like to shorten things up a little bit. If I'm using a 24-inch leader with a float, whether it be a demon dragon, peg float, whatever it might be, if I have that up towards the hook, I might move that down from the middle to the swivel somewhere, and I'll shorten that up a little bit. I may shorten it up to 18 or 20 inches, okay? And that's just going to allow that bait to be closer to the bottom. Obviously the fish are sunk down in it, that's going to be more at their, face level, okay? Let's see. P-City Smitty, I think that's how you say it. He asked, if you launched on a river between two dams, would you head upstream or downstream to start? Do I think it matters? I'm going to ask for a little bit more information on that. Are we talking during the cold front conditions from the topic, or are we just talking in general? Because I think it does matter. So a little bit more information on that question, please. Tim asked, this is kind of continuance on the bait. During cold front conditions, you always hear me talk about sometimes I'll use a whole gizzard shad or a whole skipjack. We're really going to downsize those baits. Use fillets to get a lot of scent, but not a big, size piece of bait. A lot of times in cold front conditions, the head won't be as effective. You might catch fish on it, you might not, but smaller baits, smaller hooks, really, on those types of conditions. Robert Craig, he asked, I mainly fish lakes for blues and looking for a good rod that won't break the bank. Any suggestions? I do a lot of dragging and drifting baits. Robert, Warrior Cat rods are somebody that I've worked with for years. Depending on what lake and the size of fish you're after, I highly recommend the medium heavies. There are 7.6. I've caught numerous high big fish on them. Love dragging with them. Good soft tip. They're a really good summertime flathead rod as well. But something I like about them is that whenever you're dragging and you got your planer boards out, if you get snagged up on your planer board and your rod gets pulled down, well, a lot of times those dragging weights will get snapped loose. So if I've noticed, if I have a stouter rod, it will sling that planer board forward. But with a softer rod, it will pull that planer board and it'll kind of come up smooth and soft. Okay, and that's the reason I kind of like to use a little bit softer rod while I'm dragging baits. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions, shoot me a message on Messenger, or hit me up in the comments here. A lot of times it takes me a little bit to get back to YouTube comments, so I apologize for anybody that has commented on something. I always try to get back to everybody, but it sometimes can take me a couple days. Muskrat Adventures asks, and this is a good question, he asks, how do we compete with all the small shad like we talked about earlier? The hatch was too good, buddy. Unfortunately, we just got to deal with it. I would love to tell you some magical trick to deal with that, but man, when there's M&Ms floating around out there by the millions, them fish are gonna take them. And it's hard for us as fishermen, one, to compete with that, but two, to find bait that's that we can use to fish with. So to get back on topic, kind of got off on a rabbit trail there, but let's get back on topic here. We was talking about that river conditions and what we're going to do. Let's talk about lakes. We had somebody talking about, asking about lakes and leader length and what we're going to do. We're going to use the same. We use the same, description or example as we was doing with the river, but we'll just take it to a lake now. Okay, and what we're going to do. So normally, most generally in lakes, we're going to drag baits or drift baits. Okay, I really prefer to drag baits in lakes. You cover so much water, different depths, planer boards. It's a good way to cover water and catch fish. Is it the only way? No. You can catch fish multiple different ways in lakes, and definitely experiment if you're in an area to catch, be able to better yourself in that situation, in that area, because each lake and each body of water, as I go around the country fishing, is different. For instance, Watts Bar Lake can really beat me up because I have very little patience, and that is a lake where you have to have patience. You know, a lot of the guys that are successful there, they sit in one spot for, hour, 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, and maybe not even catch a fish until after the first hour. So try different things, be patient. But for me, I like to drag baits. So in a lake situation, normally I would be like 0.7 to 0.5. But in these situations, I may slow it down. I may slow down from 0.5 to 0.3. Really take my time. Those fish are going to be sluggish. I'm going to shorten my leaders up from, normally I would do like a 3-foot leader, okay? But, in this situation, I may shorten it up to a 2-foot leader. And the same thing, if I got a peg float or a demon dragon up towards the hook, I may back it down a little bit to let that bait kind of come closer to the bottom, okay, where they're at. And if I notice they're short striking or something, once again, you can always throw an anchor out, find an area, a ledge or some cover, rock, wood, things like that those fish, once again, are going to migrate to in this situation. Set up on it and, put your baits out and kind of give them an hour. Wait, see what happens, okay? All right. See if I can catch up on some questions here. So what's your preferred pressure during the cold winter months on a river? Craig, when it comes to pressure and my preferred pressure, I don't really have one. As long as it's stable. Something that I hear a lot of people talk about is like a low pressure or a high pressure system. It's, to me, stability in anything is what I'm looking for. Whether it be weather systems, water level, barometric pressure, things like that really make a difference to me. Now, bluebird skies, definitely, I've caught some good fish during bluebird skies, but if I had to kind of, really dig down and pick one that I absolutely had to have, it would be an overcast, drizzy day. That really seems to be the day when those fish really want to come eat and be active, and you can, really catch fish. Mike Greenwald, off topic, going to be a video from the James River trip. Yes, Mike, went out there, had some good times, and so a lot of you have been reaching out to me and asking me questions. Excuse me. About what's been going on. Have I been fishing much? There's not been a lot of material coming out, not a lot of videos. And I haven't been able to keep you guys up to date on everything that's been going on. And I don't want to leave you guys in the dark, but I'm not completely allowed to let everything out on what is going on. But there are some big things going on in my world, in the catfishing side of things, and what I am doing right now that I cannot wait to let you guys in on. I'm super pumped about what's going to happen in 2020 and what we're doing now for that. And so I have been fishing. You guys will see that in the future, and I have some, some big news to tell you guys. So please, keep the good vibes coming, and just be patient. Be patient. I know it's hard, and I want to just tell you guys everything, but I just can't yet, and it's hard for me. So anyway, there will be a video coming from the James River. We had one good day there fishing, and then the day that I actually got to make a YouTube video, big cold front come in and really shut the fish down on my side of things. 30-mile-an-hour winds. It was tough. We did get a video, and I was able to get some really good information with a good friend, Trey Thorpe, out there. So that'll be coming. I got a video from Lake Gaston that I am working on right now. That one will come out first with Zach Royce. So make sure you guys watch out for that one. And then there will be 2 videos from the James River trip, and then hopefully, who knows where I'm going. Got a trip planned to Alabama here in a couple weeks, and then South Carolina after that. So some good stuff coming for you guys, hopefully. And I mean, look, I'm stepping up my game thanks to Harley Neal. Uncle Harley is helping me out with my audio. Kent Williams, looking for a catfish when a power plant shuts down and the water gets cold. Well, Kent, I'm glad you brought up power plant, and I'm going to hold that thought right there because I want to keep you guys tight on that string. But we're going to do another giveaway. And this one is, we got some green lightning bugs. These things, look folks, hold them up there so you guys can see them. These jokers are no joke, okay? And I'm gonna give a couple away from my personal ones because I want you guys to see just how good these things are. Slender Cat hat, like I'm wearing. If you guys haven't already, make sure you go to slendercat.fish. Check out all the merchandise that we have on there. That Christmas is just around the corner. So, get on there and buy your loved one something. Hand towel, decal. And I've already got the number wrote down. Too quick, fellas. Too quick. I'm holding that one off. Gotta wait. Gotta wait. So the numbers that just went through don't count. We're going to talk about the power plant, and I'll give that away here in just a minute. All right. So when we was talking about the river a minute ago, I mentioned some other things that come into play on cold front conditions, and this can be on lake or river, and that's kind of why I wanted to hold them off. So lock and dams, definitely will, fish that are at those areas would not be affected as much by the pressure systems as fish that are elsewhere in the water system. Okay, for what reason? My belief is that the concrete that is around the dam that those fish are up against are absorbing as much of more of that pressure than the other parts of that body of water. Okay, so obviously if those fish can get up tight against something that's hard, that they are not going to be as affected by that pressure system as much. And that goes for rock, wood, things like that. And I think, in my personal belief, in my personal opinion on things, that is why they're drawn to that, that is why I fish towards structure as much. So the next on that list is like a power plant. That could be a nuclear power plant, coal power plant, whether it be on a lake or on a river system. These areas, for some industrial areas, for some reason, I think it's the same thing in my opinion, that they will absorb the mass amount of that pressure system, and those fish are not affected as much as, you know, just fish out on ledges in the main body of that water. Okay. Real Catnappers TV asked, would you say blues seem to get more finicky on the bite during a front? Does the bite seem to change? Yes. So blues definitely, in my opinion, get more finicky than flatheads do during that, and the bite will, will definitely change. You know, we all know blue cat bites. They just absolutely slam it and go with it, and you know, uh, just destroy a rod. But sometimes, you know, a bigger fish will kind of come up, and I've heard the story a lot. Somebody say, "Man, I just thought it was a little channel cat pecking around," and you know, went to reel down on it, and come up, and it was a 30, 40, 50 pound blue cat. So the bite definitely changes, and that's one of the reasons we will downsize our tackle and our bait. Um, it's a number between 1 and 10. Go. Caught you guys off guard, didn't I? Joe Owens. Joe Owens, number 3, buddy. Thank you for watching, and thank you for participating. I greatly appreciate that. I will get your information to me, Messenger, Facebook, Instagram, however, and we will get that to you, buddy. All right, so Tim, quick question that ran by. Tim asks, let me pull it back up here. With high water, does the cold front push the fish to deep water? Okay, so when we talk about high water, that's a total different aspect of things. Okay, if the river is just high, but not necessarily really raging, those fish, blue cats are not, they're still going to be in that current. Okay, but now if the river is raging, those fish are going to have to come out of that, that really hard water and get away from that as much as they can. Come on. All right. So now we was talking about some, like say 50 degrees and lower. Yes, Jason, that's a great point. Glad you shared that with everybody. High water, look for those breaks and those seams. When the water temp drops into the 60 and 50s, do the blues go deep or shallow? Lone Wolf, okay, so that is day by day. Normally, I still look for those blue cats in that, 35 to 40 foot range. But, there are times whenever those fish will absolutely come up super shallow. If you look back at some of the videos that I've done, you will see that I have, in the middle of winter, caught blue cats in as shallow as like 2, 3, 5 foot. And it is phenomenal fishing when you find them there. Normally it's whenever you'll have a little bit of a warm spell and the sun comes out in the evenings and it's warming that water up, and they get up in that shallow to kind of warm up a little bit. Real Catnappers, he asked, when do you drift and drag? Do you have a preferred time of the year or water temps? So yes, usually, when the water gets down into the low 50s, 50 is like my cutoff for in a river situation, get off for drifting and dragging, bumping, things like that. I have more success after that, below 50 for in a river situation of just anchor fishing. Now, if I'm in a lake, I normally still drag. I may drag them really slow, but I'm still going to drag. There are days whenever that doesn't work, and you have to kind of anchor up, but normally I will drag. And there's in a lake for me, there's not really a cutoff. You may have to slow way down, but you know I'm still going to drag. 777 Outdoors asks, do you think that moon phases affect the fishing in the same ways cold fronts do? That is a very good question. I don't think that they affect them in the same way. I think that, you know, no matter what you are, we're all creatures of God, and that no matter what, those moon phases and will affect every single thing in its own way. Whether we look at fish and how they move and relate to food and the times of year, or whether we're talking about bucks and rut and just anything humans in general, our kids, on a full moon go crazy. So I think that they do affect their the fish in its own way, and that that 777 is like a whole new book of worms, a whole new segment, and that might be something I use in the future, is how those moon phases affect fish, because I really think that certain moon phases will affect certain big fish in different areas of the country. Craig asks, so colder temp waters, normal water height with structure, rocks all along the riverbank, would you fish shallow or still in the current? Craig, so if you have a rocky bank, okay, and I would find that seam line that comes down through that bank somewhere. Now, if it is a straight bank and it's got current, you're not going to have a seam or a current break or anything, then you might just have to work that bank, the depths, until you find where they want to be at that day. But if you can find a break or seam, that's where I want to start. Okay, and normally they will be just on the inside or just on the outside of that seam line. And if you set up right in the middle of that seam, your boat's sitting right on that seam, it makes it super easy to figure out which side they're on, and really quick. Ricky asked, I fish with Kent Williams on that power plant lake. It's completely full of 1 to 2 pound channels. How do we weed through those to catch bigger fish? Okay, if I am catching a lot of 1 to 2 pound channel cats, or like say smaller fish, blue cats and channels particularly, I will completely leave that area. Now, if your whole lake is full with those, then odds are they're the whole system is smaller per se. Normally things will balance themselves out, and you'll have smaller fish and bigger fish. But if me, for instance, if it's all I'm catching, I will move to a different area, and you'll think, man, I'm not catching nothing, but that is the area that I like to fish. Okay. Let's see. What clean? This is a good question. Justin's fishing fetish. He asks, what cleans all the meat off of your bait and leaves the bones? Buddy, a good friend of mine just done a little video on that. Look up Harley Neal, and he's got a good little video that he just launched like the other day of, you know, what's still in our bait or what's, you know, doing it. And normally it's going to be baby channel cats, baby blue cats. Harley, if I know you're in the chat, go grab your link, put it in the chat so these guys can see it to your video. It's a good little video. Let's see here. And the area could be just 50 yards down the river. Yes, absolutely, Craig. You know, somebody that taught me this is Steve Douglas. And, you know, he would always say that if he was catching small fish, he might just move straight across the river and get out of them. And that is all you have to do is just move a little bit to find them. For me, in my area, you know, this time of year, particularly this time of year, channel cats will move a little bit deeper. My lake is like 6 feet deep on most of it that I fish for channel cats, and then one end of it is like 10, 11 feet, where that depth will start to gradually go down is where those fish kind of migrate to. And that way they can be in the deeper one part of the day and then shallower in the other part of the day. So if you can find areas like that in your lake, you know, I would highly recommend you to try those areas. Earl Wilmington asked, how cold of water is it too cold for blues to bite? Well, Earl, I have not found that yet. In the wintertime around here, you know, sometimes we will, you know, I'll have to bust ice at the marinas to be able to get my boat in to get out into the river, and the water temperature be in the, you know, low 30s, you know, or 30 degrees, you know, right there at freezing, and still catching fish. So, you know, that's a good question, and honestly, I can't answer that because I don't think, you know, I don't think there is, but I don't know. Make sure that you guys are hitting that thumbs up. Let me know that you guys are liking what we're doing. We are doing this for you all. So anything that you guys want to see me do in the future, make sure you put it in the comments. Anything you guys would like to learn more about, you know, I'm going to start back on the Video Viewer Friday videos where I left off with the sonar stuff. So make sure you guys are putting those questions in the comments because that's where we get our information from to do the videos. Another goodie box. We got an extreme hat. We got some more sabikis, Team Catfish sinker slides, some decals, some more hooks from Biachi. Bid number between 1 and 15. Let's do it now. P City, I will get to that question as soon as we get done with this one. And Joe Owens, you got it, but I'm going to go on with it because you already won one. You guys are quick on this one. All right, Brian Harrigan. I think I said that name right. Harrigan. Brian, get a hold of me, send me your information, and I will get that out to you, buddy. All right. So, hey, that's 3. Yeah. 2 boxes and 1 bag full of stuff. Man, I got 1 more. All right. So, P City asked a question there a minute ago, and it was just in general. Would I head upriver to a dam or downriver to? Okay, so upriver towards the downside of the dam, or downriver to the upriver side of the dam. Okay, so a lot of that will depend on the time of year. For me, I love to fish dams. Dams can be productive places. Springtime, a lot of the fish, a lot of the migratory stuff, bait, bass, catfish, everything will follow that bait, and it's going to go naturally upriver. They naturally want to go upriver to spawn. And so springtime, I like to head up that way. So now in the fall, summertime, fall, I'm going to go down towards the other dam for a couple reasons. Normally when you go upriver towards a dam, the water is going to be swifter. It's going to be shallower, narrower. So you're going to, a lot of those things are going to affect you. Downriver is going to will normally be deeper, wider, and slower. Okay, so summertime, after those blues get done spawning, they like to hit that deeper water. So I kind of like to go towards that deeper water. Wintertime, they also like to go towards that slower water where they can get out of the current, seam lines and breaks, and you're going to find a lot of that in that area as well. So hopefully that answers your question. Joe Owens, buddy, so it's funny you mentioned that. At the end of this video, I was going to mention something, but we'll talk about it now. So I am just a little over 9,000 subscribers, and can't thank you guys enough for everything that you guys share, everything that you guys support, the positive all vibes, everything that I believe in, you guys, help support, and I can't thank you enough for that. So they're already putting up numbers. We're not going to do it now, but I have decided once I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to do a subscriber giveaway to where you can come fish with me for a day. Okay, and then for every 10,000 subscribers I hit after that, we are going to do a viewer fishing trip as well. So the more fishing trips you guys want, share it, like it, get people to come over and subscribe to it. The more subscribers we have, the more I can do for you guys. And as my dad has always told me, if you want something bad enough, you'll work for it. And I work as hard as I can for you guys. So I'm putting this one on your shoulders. The more people you guys get to come over, the more you spread the word, the more we'll be able to do. And you're going to see more of that here in just a little bit. I got something that everybody loves. There's not a single person in this country that doesn't love what I'm getting ready to give away at the end of this show. So make sure you stick around to the very end. But Joe, so hopefully we can get that happen. And Joe, if you're lucky enough to win it, awesome. I'd love to fish with you, put you on some fish. But whoever gets to come out and fish with me, I'm sure we'll have a good time. Harley, no, it's not an apple pie, buddy, but I would love to have one. Real Catnappers, he asked, do you think blues move shallow during a warmer day in the winter months on rivers? Absolutely. If you look at the video that I've done with Doc, for instance, it was middle of the winter, shallow water, later in the afternoon, and I purposely waited till the afternoon to go up on that. That was a shallow flat that I had found, those fish on a week prior that they were moving up on that in the hot sun. Well, I don't say hot, but as that sun beat it down on that water, warmed it up just a couple degrees, and it was like coming through a windshield on us on a cold day, and it warms those fish up. And it just doesn't take much, but they'll come up there. All right. All right, so let's see. We was talking about the power plants. We talked about the rock. We talked about kind of got off track. How deep was the flat? It was actually it started out at about 5 feet. Some places would kind of go down into like 10 feet, 12 feet. And some places were as shallow as 1, 2, 3, 4 foot. You know, where the boat was like 3 feet. Where we was catching the fish was about 5 to 8 feet. Bobby Finley asked, he says, do you use your bait tank in the winter or just keep bait in the live well? If I'm trying to keep it for long periods of time in the winter, you know, I will put it in my tank. If it's really hard to catch and I want to keep it from week to week to week, I will put it in my tank just because it's gentler on it. Normally in the wintertime, I'm fishing with really big shad, and then I'll cut them down to the pieces I want. And normally you can just throw them, you know, in the wintertime, you can throw them in your live well or on ice, something like that. But if I want to take some home, then and keep them alive, I'll put them in my tank in there. That way that they, you know, they stay healthy and I can use them anyway. Texas flatheads. Quentin Robbins, buddy, I would love to come back out anytime and do another collaboration with you. Maybe, you know, I'd like to do it before you sold Lucille, but I don't know if we'll have time for that or not. And for everybody that's on here, make sure you guys go check out Mid-South Outdoor Life, Quentin Robbins. He's got his pontoon Lucille up for sale, or is going to sell it, one of the two. But make sure you check out his channel. He puts a lot of information out. One of these days, I want to get up guts enough to eat one of the Asian carp. Not today. Matthew Field, he asked, do you see a difference in scaling versus not scaling a shad? Matthew, that's a good question. And, you know, whenever we talk about it, you know, the size of the shad makes a difference, you know, in my book. If I'm talking about big shad, absolutely, I like to scale them. You know, it seems like it just, for some reason, it's like the scent can get out easier. You know, smaller shad doesn't really seem to matter as much, but on the big shad, you know, when I'm talking big, I'm talking, you know, 10 inches or so. Now come on. Fellas, did we freeze up? I don't know if you guys can hear me. Okay, you can still hear me. All right, since you guys can hear me, make sure I'm going to close this one out and I'm going to jump back on and finish this out because I still got another giveaway to do, and well, I actually got 2 giveaways to do. So jump off this one and jump right back onto another one.